And so it's with great pleasure that I invite Sister Arati to talk about our theme tonight, which is Thrive Through Uncertainty and Change. And with that focus, it's about maximize your optimism, adaptability, and strength to persevere. So thank you again for joining us, Arati, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. It's lovely to be back with you this week. I was going to talk about finding your north and falling back on your value system. And then it struck me there are a few other things that have helped me through my journey and that have strengthened my ability to persevere, my optimism. And so I thought, right, let's try another angle. So let's look at resilience first of all. So resilience needs us to use our energy in a way that instead of depleting us, it actually increases more energy. So whether it's our thought, our emotions, our feelings, our activities, we don't want to use those energies so that we end up feeling tired, empty, worn out, because at that point, I don't have resilience to call on. So it's using the same energy to thrive and flourish. So when there is uncertainty and change, when I don't feel like I've got my feet on solid ground, I need to make sure that I have a reserve that I can work with, that I can fall back and trust myself with. So in short, we are learning to create more energy instead of using up energy. For this, I wish to explore three things with you. And the topics or the three things are study, fortune, and love. Possibly not what you were expecting this morning, but I found that these three things actually create what I need so that there's always a reserve of energy and a reserve of resilience for me to work with. So study. I'm not sure if you're aware, maybe you are, but we are meditators and every morning we meditate, that's true. But we also study in the Brahma Kumaris. And what's intrigued me as an individual, and it was when I first started, it intrigued me, but now, all these years on, it's still something that surprises me and gives me a sense of oomph. And that is that from 1936, we have studied slightly differently. It's not simply the traditional study, where you study to learn, understand, expand your knowledge, and hopefully you are developing as a person. Within the Brahma Kumaris, since the very first lesson, which was in 1936, and every lesson since, when you turn up for your lesson, you get given your pass grade at the very beginning of the lesson, which is an A+. The next 30 to 40 minutes while we are studying, we are exploring how we get to that grade. The possible different things we'll learn about ourselves and the signposts that warn us that we're off track. And that's what each lesson, each morning explores. The rest of the day for us as meditators, I guess, is that we have an opportunity to bring those insights into our life. So we're experiencing greater peace, greater love, greater joy, all of which, interestingly enough, create energy. Greater peace, and I create my capacity to be unperturbed and centered during the whirlwind of activities or emotions. Greater experiences of love and my capacity to be open to newness, to differences, as well as not experience pain or be easily hurt, increases. A greater experience of joy, and I find that I'm flexible, light, at ease. I don't know if you'll agree with me, but those are the experiences I know I've had, and perhaps you've had those too. So the invitation really is to start your day with an A+ result. How do you do that? Try this. Ask yourself these questions. What does being perfectly peaceful look like for me? What does a completely successful, happy, contented, energized, optimistic me look like? And if you're a creative force, what does that look like? Now work out what you did to achieve that as a result. All of those experiences, what did you do to be able to experience that through the day? And so, are you ready to start with an A+? That's the question. Or would you prefer to be unsure and continue to try and see, and then possibly experience something and grow? So although there may be uncertainty around me, it doesn't matter. I've started my day with a certain fixture of success. And when you feel that and you start doing the next thing, imagine how successful the next activity is likely to be. There was a study years ago, in Harvard, the Harvard study, and they asked, you may have heard of this already, but they had asked a classroom to be split in two. And when the teacher walked in, the teacher was told, the right-hand side of the class are all very special, talented children. Some of them are even geniuses. The left-hand side of your classroom is a group of average students. We just want you to know, that's all. We don't want you to change the way you study, the way you treat the kids. We just want you to know. And so the teacher would go in and teach the children. And sure enough, at the end of the year, even though it was the same group of students and they were getting the same lessons and they were being treated in the same way, the right-hand side of the classroom excelled. And the left-hand side of the classroom got average grades or slightly above. And it all boiled down just to the vision that the teacher was holding of the students. So I'm going to ask you, when you are learning something, when you're in a new arena that is unexpected, uninvited, perhaps even, do you show up with a vision for yourself that has and holds your personal genius? Or do you turn up as a normal everyday person? The vision you hold for yourself is also going to give the result in your actions, in your attitude, and in your feelings, and as a result, in what you do and what you achieve. And so study is a two-part thing for me. The first part, I'm turning up with my grade, and then I'm understanding how I got there. what to look out for in myself and how to overcome that, what practices I'm going to be having that enable me to be an A+, to have personal excellence, to have that confidence no matter what. But the other side of it is, what's the vision I hold for myself? Do I just treat myself as an average, normal guy? Do I hold the vision of being someone who has personal excellence? Just a vision, nothing more. Don't turn it into an attitude in which I need to be treated specially. No, it's that I'm the quiet change in the equation of life. So I come back with some exercises for you today. So first of all, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. I'm going to invite you to do some box breathing, which is breathe in for 4, hold it for 4 ticks, breathe out for 4, and hold it there for 4 ticks. So let's start. Eyes closed, are you comfortable? Make sure your body is comfortable, it's very important. And I'd like you to come into the present. So take a deep breath in. For the count of 4. Hold it for the count of 4. Breathe out slowly at the count of 4. And hold it at the count of 4. Breathe in 2, 3, 4. Hold it 2, 3, 4. Release it 2, 3, 4. Hold it there 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. Breathe out. And hold it there. Now in your mind's eye, see a younger you. Imagine a time when nothing was impossible. Everything was to be explored. And the world is your oyster. Acknowledge your enthusiasm, sense of adventure, and optimism. Now anchor yourself into those positive energies. And choose to bring those energies into the next task you do, no matter how mundane. Thank you. It's another way of giving yourself a boost of energy and anchoring yourself in that resilience. Okay, number 2, fortune. Well, we may talk about being lucky or getting lucky. We may think it's a chance, but I'm going to use the word that we use in the Brahma Kumaris, which isn't often used any longer in the English language, at least here in Britain, which is fortune or fortunate. So how do I translate that in everyday language? Fortune is how actually I translate everything that's happening to me, which actually particularly applies in situations where I have no control. So I'm going to tell you a little story. It's a story I was told as a child. It's a Birbal Akbar story, which are very famous children's stories in India. And Akbar was the emperor, and he's sometimes shown as a bit dim. And Birbal was his very wise, very positive advisor. And because he was so wise and so kind as an advisor and very, very positive, Akbar relied on him extensively, which created a little jealousy in all of the other advisors. And they all felt that if Birbal wasn't there, if he was removed, they would have the chance to shine. And so one day they came together and they put together this little plan to make sure that Birbal foils, and everybody knows he's not as smart as they think he is. And so they say to Akbar, you know, if Birbal is so wise and so clever, he should be able to do one simple task for you. And Akbar said, well, of course, there's nothing that Birbal can't do. And so the advisors said, well, we would like him to travel through your empire, and as he travels through the empire, to count all the crows. And if there's any more or any less, then when he comes back, whatever number he gives, if there's any more or any less, then you have to admit that he is not the smartest advisor you have. So Akbar says, so be it, let's try it. So Birbal gets called in and he gets given this task, and he does what I usually do, which is scratch my head, and he turns around and says, okay, let me come back to you tomorrow with what I need to be able to achieve this. And Akbar said, you know, Birbal, there's one more thing. If you are wrong in this simple task, you will be beheaded or off with your head, because Akbar didn't like to be shown up and told he was wrong about something. And so he was going to take his complete vengeance of being fooled by Birbal. So Birbal said, no worries, I will go off and work this out. Now, if somebody had threatened your life, how would you respond? If someone had asked you to do something that's nonsense and has no practical result for you or them or the community, how would you feel? I know I would be pretty miffed at the very least. But Birbal goes home, and he's just had a small child, and he knows that traveling through the empire is going to take him 9 months. No planes, no trains, just carts and coaches and boats. Okay, so it's going to take him 9 months to do all of this, and he doesn't want to be parted from his wife or his young son for that long. So what he does is he plots an entire holiday for 9 months, where he gets to show his wife and his son all the scenes, see all the beauty that India holds as a country. And he comes back the next day, and also where he's going to stay. He doesn't want to stay in huts for the next 9 months with his wife. And he's got to take the cook with him. He's got to take his laundryman with him. You know, all of that has to be organized. He comes back and he says to Akbar, this is what I need. It's going to be 9 months. So I'm going to take my wife and child with me. So we're going to need this. We're going to need this. We're going to travel to this city, then this place, then this place. And he lays it all out. And it really is a holiday of a lifetime. Yeah. 9 months later, Bibo comes back, having had 9 months of rest, he had his scribes with him, so they would go off and count and do things. And he would go off and on his own to do some checking and counting, etc. And he comes back 9 months later, completely rested and energized. And he says to his emperor, in front of the advisors, there are 3,427,000 crows in your empire. So the other ministers jump up, all wanting to be the person who goes out and counts all of those crows. And Akbar says, okay, fine, we can organize it. And Bibo said, just one thing to keep in mind. If there are less crows than this in your kingdom, it's because they've gone to visit their families in other kingdoms. And if there are more crows than the number I've given you, it's because they've got family visiting. That has always tickled me. And what it's shown me is no matter what, I can still enjoy my life, no matter what the circumstances, even if I'm being asked to do something nonsensical, even if I'm asked to do something which wastes my time, even if I'm not sure of the outcome, I can be sure that I can choose to enjoy this next phase in my life, knowing that there'll always be new options to look at as I go through this journey in my life. It's very different when we think that here's the task, I have to do it, it's got to be important, but what if it isn't? What if I find myself in a position that really is overwhelming? At that time, what is my approach? Do I choose to enjoy that? Do I choose to enjoy that phase in my life, knowing that I'll come out having learnt and grown and experienced something positive? Or do I become complacent? Because I was successful in whatever I did before in my life. And so I'm resting on my laurels. I'm overestimating my skill base. And as a result, I'm believing in my own PR. And a good friend of mine puts it really nicely, don't believe in your own PR, because whatever has happened, it's happened. This new phase in my life, whatever it is inviting me to experience something new. It's not inviting me to reinvent the wheel that I have experienced already. And actually, the greater the challenge, the more I'm likely to feel overwhelmed, the more there is uncertainty, the more I'm going to have to rely on my own inner sense of feeling good and doing my best no matter what, so that I'm choosing only to enjoy the next phase of my life. And that's the challenge. So it's important to be grounded, not to be overinflated due to past successes or deflated due to past failures where I walk into a situation saying, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm going to be accepted. I don't know if my ideas are good enough. I don't know if somebody's going to say, yeah, this person is nice or wanted. It can be any of those things, if not more. But when you feel fortunate, when you have had the practice of again and again and again, taking the time to say, I'm going to enjoy this next part of my life, the next chapter in my life. It doesn't matter if it's ill health. It doesn't matter if I've lost my job. It doesn't matter. Well, all of these things matter, but they don't decide whether the next chapter should be enjoyable or not. So feeling fortunate means that I'm continuing to enjoy the journey. I'm choosing to enjoy this journey. It's not resting on the past in any way. That's what fortune is. It's that filter again and again and again that, yeah, what other people are doing is actually in that situation irrelevant, because the decision is mine to make. Do I wish to, as an individual, enjoy the journey despite or because of something or someone else? So fortune is really like the camera lens of a photographer. It's catching the moment, the meaning, the beauty of a moment in the humdrum of life. And that's what it means to be fortunate. Again and again and again, just realign your camera lens, or the lens that you look through, and choose a moment of beauty and capture it, turn it into a memory. To get to experience fortune, you can easily practice gratitude and appreciation, and there is lots out there on both of those subjects, and actually they warrant their own talk, so I'm not going to explore them much more with you this morning or this evening with you. So that's number one. 2, watch out for labeling an activity, a task, a project as successful or a failure. Nothing is as good as you think it is, nor is it as bad as you think it is. Choose instead to dive into the adventure of what the task is in front of you. If you're hesitant, unsure, or simply uncomfortable stepping out of your comfort zone or stepping away from what feels familiar, if in short you're holding yourself back, then you may feel that adventure into uncertainty or change may be dangerous. And that's true. But keep in mind, just keeping to a routine, holding yourself back, isn't dangerous. It's deadly. It'll put you to sleep and you'll miss your life. That's how deadly it is. So, as you're stopping enjoying your life, not enjoying the beauty that surrounds you, and that's just the result of avoiding adventure. So please note, there is a difference between being adventurous and being reckless, and I'm not recommending the second, that's for sure. So here's another exercise. I'm going to ask you to go back and do that box breathing again. I've got to keep an eye on the time so I cover everything today. I'm going to ask you to do the box breathing again. So breathe in, hold it there, breathe out, hold it there, breathe in, hold it there. Yeah. Breathing in, Breathe out. Breathing in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Hold it there. Breathe out. Hold it there. Now cast your mind back through the day that you've had and look for something or someone you appreciated today. Number 2, what are you grateful for today? Number 3, can you pinpoint a moment of fortune, of meaning, of beauty that makes your life richer? Thank you. You can do this just as a reflection each evening. You can journal at night. And if you really want to be adventurous, try this. Write 10 things in the morning and 10 things in the evening. And they have to be different that you're grateful for. And keep that going for a month and see how that makes a difference to your sense of fortune and helps you build that for yourself. Okay, the third thing I want to cover today is loving the self and then others. So the question really is, am I the most important person in my life? Would you say you are? If you would say possibly not, because you don't treat yourself as the most important person in your life. You may think that, but I don't treat myself that way. So if I don't treat myself as the most important person in my life, you might experience the following things. First, you may have a negative bias. Now, what is a negative bias? It's the thing that affects me the most and occupies my head the most. For example, there are 2 articles that are published about you today or tomorrow. And the first article looks at who you are, what you've done, the work you do, and how important it is for humanity, and that your integrity as a person, and it looks at all of those things, and it says really you are a gift for humanity. The other article also explores who you are, and it looks at what you've done and shows how useless it is. It looks at how you like to waste time and energy. It looks at whether really you have any integrity, and possibly that you don't have any integrity. And generally, you and your work are a danger to every living being, not just humanity, but every living creature on earth. Now you read both articles. Which is likely to affect you most? Which is going to stay with you? If it's the negative one, then you can say, yes, I have a negative bias. What does that mean? I'm constantly undermining myself, which in turn is diminishing my resilience. So find yourself with that, and we need to start to shift that. And I'm going to just cover two more things that you might find happen before we look at how to shift things. So secondly, if I don't treat myself as the most important person in my life, it's likely that you create far more thoughts, that you are an overthinker, that you rely on external stimuli to motivate you, which means, interestingly enough, that you are easily bored. And when you're bored, that's when your mind goes into overdrive and it thinks aimless thoughts that drain our energy and decrease our resilience. So overthinking, boredom, and then loss of energy. Then the third thing is, and that is, I know that prior to meditating, this was very true for me, that my mind wanders much more. Actually, it's likely to wander 50% more. And it will, because it's settling on the past or the future. It's not in the present. And because I'm not in the present, I'm missing out on the now. So again, this one is overthinking, but the other is the mind wandering past, future, and never in the present. So that's why it's important to ask yourself, what relationship do I hold for myself? What relationship do I have with myself? Do I treat myself as someone who is worthy of love, of respect, of compassion? If I'm treating myself with love, I am naturally more present. I never feel as if I'm missing out. And the interesting thing is, I am better at discerning. So decision making is much smoother and easier for me. And I'm less reactive. What does that mean? I don't make everything about me. Isn't that interesting? And this is the paradox for me of spirituality, always, that actually, if I am the most important person in my own life, I don't need to make everything about me. And the beauty of having love for the self or compassion for the self is that it prevents me from ever experiencing post-stress disorder. There's no disorder created because I experience stress. So how do I go about doing this? When I love myself, when I love someone, I wish them happiness. Isn't that true? So do I love myself, and do I wish myself happiness in the same way? That's the question. Again and again and again. Am I wishing myself happiness in this situation again and again and again? So I come into uncertainty. I come into a situation where change is occurring very quickly. And let's face it, it seems like it's happening faster and faster. Our lives are getting faster and faster. Well, if that's the case, first of all, am I loving myself? Am I treating myself with that love and respect? Do I hear what I'm saying, what my heart is saying, what my mind is saying? Or am I too busy listening to everything else around me that I'm not hearing what's going on in my own world? And so to create that space for that. There's just one thing I'd like to make clear. There is wishing yourself happiness and self-concern, and they are very different things. When I wish myself happiness, there are no boundaries, there are no restrictions, and there's no exclusion. I don't exclude anyone or anything else. When there's self-concern, I think the word concern says it all, I find myself trapped. And I can't see a bigger picture for myself, nor do I see the bigger picture of others and opportunities that are around me. I am trapped in self-concern, and as a result, I suffer helplessly because there is that sense of helplessness. When I'm compassionate, the experience is I'm freer and happier. I'm inclusive. So how did I build my own self-compassion? How did I bring it into my life and that it benefited me, but also I was compassionate with others? Firstly, I spend each day, I will reflect on what I've learned, what I've discovered about myself. Secondly, I've created a simple ritual. So I will once a day have a cup of tea where there's no phone, there's no iPad, no book that I'm reading. There's nothing that distracts me. I just enjoy the activity of making tea with love and then drinking that tea with love. It's a ritual I've made. But as a result, I find that other things I do over time. I've learned to do those things where I enjoy doing them with love, and then I enjoy them for what they are with love. I enjoy being with myself. 3, I've learned to create boundaries where I respect my emotions, my energy. I may need to say no to things from time to time. That's okay. It's not saying no, I dislike you. It's just saying no, that's not something that's going to fit into my timetable. And I also, part of my boundaries is going for a walk. It may be a walk in the park. It may be a walk around the block. It may be a walk in the forest. It may be a walk along the beach. And then fourthly, and I know I'm out of time. I'm sorry, Catherine, but I'm literally going to be 2 more minutes. 4th point, I play. I make sure that the relationships I have at work with my colleagues are that they also become people I play with. What I'm doing is leaning into my family, my friends, my community, and that creates a deep space of feeling secure and safe for me. So I play. I don't just work, I play with my friends. And they're not just my colleagues or people I know or people in the community. They are mine. Number 5, I've learned to see others with love, particularly with people I'm at odds with or people I find myself disagreeing with. And when I find that emotion coming and that energy growing in me, I'll just take a moment out and I'll just imagine that person holding their child or their grandchild with such love. I will envision them giving love. That way, even if I'm at odds with them, I've already created a common ground with them, because being loved And loving another is very important to me as a person. And when I see someone else do it, I've created that bridge. And then what I may disagree with you, I may be at odds with you, but that no longer is the guiding factor in how I treat you, how I respect you. Number 6, I spend time in silence, where I spend time with myself, very much like my ritual, where I'm undistracted. Just in silence, me and myself. And I enjoy that space. It's like learning to love yourself in the skin you have today, as you are today. At the end of the day, and this one's really important for me, one of the parts of the Raj Yoga course is your relationship with God. Not about putting God on a pedestal and worshipping him, but actually having a relationship, an intimate relationship with this being, God. Or you may say source, you may say universe, you may say goodness, I don't mind, but this being that is unconditionally loving. And so I'll turn up and I will allow myself to experience that unconditional love, no matter how I have behaved that day, good or bad. And because I'm allowing myself to experience that unconditional love, all the tiredness, all the mistakes, all the disappointments, even the feeling of being fed up with myself because I've done it again and I've messed up again, all of that gets wiped away. So that when I go to bed experiencing that love and being cherished. So the next morning I'm ready to start again. Mark Twain puts it nicely, I think. There isn't time. Life is so brief for bickering, apologies, heartburn, calling to account. There is only time to love in life. Or something like that. He said something like that. But just that there isn't enough more time in our lives to be doing anything else. So yes, certainty and change are parts of our lives, but they don't need to rule us. They're the opportunities for me to explore personal excellence, discover how fortunate I am, and to both love, to be loved and to love another, to be cherished and to cherish another. And if I just live my life with that, I'm going to find that I have such deep reserves of resilience. Thank you very much for your patience and staying with me. Back to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Artie. What a beautiful talk and a lovely way to finish the series. And I think it was delightful how you brought love as a solution and such a foundation for actually being resilient in challenging times. And also your focus on study and fortune. So thank you again for sharing your experience and your wisdom with such warmth and so many lovely qualities. But anyway, so delightful the way you share, Sister Artie. So thank you again for being with us in Australia, and on behalf of all of our viewers, thank you from the heart.
I must say thank you very much for the opportunity. It was very generous of you and Pana and Satish to host me. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.